Welcome back. All right, some more news of the day for all you fine people on the internet for your Wednesday, February the 5th. Marcus Pettersson, when he was acquired by the Vancouver Canucks, the intention was to sign him because that trade, if those guys were just rentals, would absolutely have been lopsided in favor of Pittsburgh. So Pettersson has signed, and this is Marcus Pettersson has signed a 6-year extension with the Vancouver Canucks. The cap hit is $5.5 million per season, considering the salary cap is going to go up this summer. That's a good one. Now, he does have a full no movement clause for the first 3 years of the contract, and then he has a 15-team no trade list from years 4 through 6, meaning in the event that the Canucks are going to move, or well, once a year, he would submit the 15 teams that he'd be like, nope, don't want to go there to the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, I think that's a good signing for them. He has been good since he arrived from Pittsburgh, and DPD, Elias Pettersson, he's the next one that they signed to a long-term extension, and then find more Petterssons. Quinn Hughes won't play tomorrow in San Jose, as it looks more and more like I don't think he's going to play in Four Nations. I can't see the Vancouver Canucks, if he's missed 3 games in a row, sending him off to Four Nations, but I'll talk about that again in a bit here. The NHLPA has filed an appeal of Hartman's suspension. This is just standard. So Hartman says, I want to appeal it. The union appeals it. It has nothing to do with the union's belief of whether or not it was deserved. It's just part and parcel of the relationship between the union and the player. So that has been appealed. We'll see if Gary Bettman drops it down. A big part of the reason players appeal this is the amount of money that's lost. It's over $400,000 lost by Hartman. So if he can get any of that back, I understand him trying to appeal it for exactly that reason. We'll see how long it takes before that appeal is held and is, either upheld or overturned and dropped down. It could be a while before we hear anything about it. It may actually be after Four Nations because we only have a few more days till Four Nations and there isn't really any need necessarily, but we'll see what the news cycle looks like over those 2 weeks. Marner is likely to play in Seattle tomorrow. So Mitch Marner having missed, I think, just the 1 game for Toronto. Timmins, though, is not expected to play in Seattle. Timmins got hurt last night. He is not expected to play, but Marner's expected to be back in the lineup. Lots to talk about Marner as well, and the fact that he's an upcoming unrestricted free agent and whether or not Toronto can re-sign him. If the salary cap going up means it's easier to keep Tavares and Marner, or do you take that money and hand it off to some other free agents? It will be interesting to see what the Toronto Maple Leafs do between now and July the 1st involving Marner and Tavares. This was a good story, so I wanted to put it on the board today. The St. Louis Blues, they get a Make-A-Wish request, and they grant it. 12-year-old Carter Johnston gets a day with the St. Louis Blues, and he even got to go out on the ice with them, and he scored on a breakaway against Jordan Binnington. So, great memory that he's going to have there, and all the best to Carter Johnston as he's, had a day as a St. Louis Blue, and all the best to him on the battle ahead. When it's Make-A-Wish, you know that, it's a situation where it is a young kid usually. In this case, a 12-year-old that's going through a lot of health issues. And so, yeah, hopefully this is something that gives him that spirit and he's able to fight off whatever ails him. Again, all the best to him. And hey, he got into a THG video, so I don't think that's in anybody's Make-A-Wish. I don't think nah. Anyways, so yeah, good on the Blues for doing that. They even made a little hockey card for him and everything. It's a good story. So I wanted to throw this in there too because I've seen questions about this. There's no trade freeze during the Four Nations tournament. So when I'm down in California next week, and I see people asking, why are you going to California with everything that's going on? Because we prepaid for the vacation and it's non-refundable, so we're going. That was a vacation we've had planned for months. We prepaid for it, so we're going. But yeah, so there could very well be a trade while I'm, on Rise of the Resistance. So if I have to pull out the phone and do a video, I can do that. Just tell Kylo Ren to keep it down. But yeah, I actually, I'm going to say this too. I've seen people saying, it'll just be a no-hitter. I don't think so. The way this is being hyped up, the way that these guys are talking about representing their country, I expect this to be real hockey. Not like the All-Star game where it's just this little 3-on-3, no hit, nobody really cares who wins. I expect this to be pretty intense, and there could be injuries that happen. And I would expect there to be a debate coming out of that, because it's a debate I've had too with, like, for instance, NHL players not going to the Olympics. From an injury perspective, I've been okay with that. I understand the players want to go, but we have seen injuries of NHL players at previous Olympics, and it could happen at the Four Nations tournament as well. A lot of injuries going into Four Nations. It is a compressed schedule. I've seen that question getting asked as well. Did they compress the schedule for this 2 week break? Absolutely. This really feels like quite the compressed schedule. A lot of busy nights, a lot of weeks where teams are playing 4 games. You're going to get more injuries when that takes place. Guys don't have as much time to recover. So it's kind of a black and blue NHL at this point, and I don't know that Four Nations, for players that are in it, I don't know that it'll be any safer for them than playing a regular National Hockey League regular season game. For the guys who get the 2 weeks off, we should see a lot of players feeling good and ready to come back. So that's good news, right? So getting back into some injury news here, Jonas Siegenthaler, who got hurt last night, the expectation is that he's going to be out for a while. So he got injured against the Penguins. He will likely be out for a bit. They're not saying exactly how long, just missed some time, which to me is at least a week. That's the way I look at it. When they're missed some time, to me that's not day to day, it's at least a week. But all the best to Siegenthaler, which means he won't be coming back before Four Nations if that's the case as well. Samuelson's been ruled out of Four Nations. That's Matthias Samuelsson of the Buffalo Sabres due to injury. Tage Thompson, who I reported on earlier, wasn't at practice. It may very well be because he's in concussion protocol. He has to pass concussion protocol before he's going to be able to return to action for the Buffalo Sabres. So all the best to Tage Thompson and all of those injured Buffalo Sabres. It feels like there was a lot of them today. In San Jose's game against Vancouver, they're going to have Dellandrea back tomorrow in all likelihood. It looks like he's going to return tomorrow. Wenberg has been ruled out until after Four Nations, so the earliest he'd be back would be February the 23rd. I believe that's when San Jose's next game after the break is. But either way, we're going to be seeing a lot of that with this guy's out for at least the next 2 weeks, because there won't be hockey games for the next 2 weeks. But a lot of players that were supposed to be in this tournament being out. We still don't know whether or not Crosby's going to be going, and that could be huge if Crosby doesn't go. So we'll see what happens with Four Nations, what those rosters end up looking like. It should be a fascinating couple of weeks. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. How do you feel about the Pettersson deal? Fair? Again, I think the Canucks did a very good job. I also expect a Drew O'Connor signing, like an extension over the next couple, maybe during Four Nations, they sit down with Drew O'Connor and hammer out an extension, because they were talking about an extension with him as well. They wanted to keep both players they got from Pittsburgh. You got to think Patrick Allvin is familiar with guys from Pittsburgh, right? So that's a bonus for him right there. And again, we'll see probably over the next couple of days whether or not Hughes is going to play. Rick Tocchet saying that they'll have to sit down and talk to him over the next couple of days and figure this out, which to me says he's probably not going to be playing at Four Nations. I don't think you want to take that risk for the reasons that I mentioned here. It's going to be some pretty intense hockey. For guys who are going in there already banged up, there is that injury risk that's there. It will be interesting to see if there are multiple injuries for a team, if somebody who's on vacation ends up being called in to represent their country at Four Nations. But yeah, I guess they'll just kind of wing it, because I think a lot of the hockey players that aren't going to Four Nations are going on some kind of a vacation, since there's 2 weeks off. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again once the games are done tonight.